program has been doing since 2015. It's a 5-year program set to finish at the end of this year, 2019, December 20. Now, the program ran with these objectives until the midterm, when we did a review, and one of the big points that came out from the review was that the focus on just revenue was actually missing a very big part of, first of all, the contributions that we can get from the sector, but also if you don't consider the non-revenue impact on communities, on citizens, if you do it to Ghana. And because of Gogate's involvement in that process, we were able to influence that national discussion to look at the local impacts of impending onshore activities. And so a very good to drive us, I will tell you about it. So can I take this opportunity to introduce Professor Akiama Soya, who is also the chair of the Gogate Steering Committee. So the chair of the steering committee and is chairing this action. Prof, over to you. Shall we do that?
Thank you very much for the introduction. For like the technical basis for making choices going forward. And that is why I'm here. And I've led to complete the basis which will enable government to take up this topic on an informed basis, not as for the beginnings and endings and whatnot. But I suppose at this stage we ought to go to the next item, which is to introduce ourselves. I suppose we should start from the right hand side. My old friend,
Sam, I teach in the university. I also work for the civil society organization. I'm a French program officer, department. We will still now. My name is Eric Akuri.
Shall I
go ahead.
and Valerie myself? And then you produce this group.
My name is Richard Adomo, and I work with the Minerals Commission. Currently, I'm secretary.
Basin is the largest of all the 4 basins in the country. It's about 40% of this country. And because it's elementary, we have been voting to look at this basin for its potential. As a result of that, because we think that once that is done, we'll be able to open up a report as basis for that to happen. That Scopy report has been produced, but JPC started work, so it was great for them, for wherever they were working, to conduct, as required by EPA, conduct an environmental and social impact. JPC has gone ahead to do that. He selected targeted areas that they are working and not the entire basin. And so that is the state of the basin now. Although EPA has finished with the strategic environmental assessment, we don't have information that they have embarked on a full assessment. And that means that's an outstanding task. They are here to correct.
We have done it.
Okay. So it means that some of people are already reached out. Okay. Go ahead. And looking at the characteristics, the rest of the basin continue. First of all, it's very important to recognize that the basin, let me talk to you next slide. Yeah. The basin, the river basin, spans 6 countries, and that is Ghana itself, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Burkina Faso, Togo, and Benin. So that's very important. Next. In Ghana, the basin covers originally six regions, but because of the additional regions created, it now covers 10 in the place. Now here you have two areas with red marks. The bigger one is the Volta Basin, and the which of them? Are you also? Okay. So, the strategic environmental assessment scoping report. One is the working draft final report, and then the last one is the synthesized report of the two reports enhanced with more specific examples from other sectors. The objective of this assignment here is to identify the policy legislative action. And then once these are identified, we're expecting that there will be proposal for enhancement to the existing legislation, filling the gaps that have been identified. Just to highlight some of the key risks that we have identified, generally, we classify these risks. There are a number of risk issues that have been identified. There are about 24, but these have been classified around 4 thematic or 4 high-risk areas, and they are land, livelihoods and residential displacements, community health, safety and security, inter and intra-community conflicts, oil and gas governance, and local impact management. These are not exhaustive, and probably may not be the most convenient, but that's why you are here. There's something wrong with it. Yeah. It's not great. This is why you're supposed to. Now, the first key risk, there are quite a number of things that were clustered to group into this risk area. And these include issues related to government compulsory land acquisitions, land transfers by mostly chiefs and family heads who are supposed to be custodians of the land for the population. Land grabbing, quite related to land transfers, because those who grab the land, their major transaction partners are those who are the custodians of the land and not the community. And then compensation for loss of issues relating, compensation for loss of crops, and also compensation for loss of fish, may catch at fish, and then residential land displacement, resettlement, and many of other challenges that come under that. For community health, safety, and security, so under community health and security issues, there are quite a menu of issues that come underneath this. But the prominent ones include pressure on local health and other public goods and services due to immigration. And this, we think that would be a very serious problem if we consider the fact that as a country and even globally, unemployment is such a big thing. Any rumor of employment opportunity anywhere is going to be a magnet to attract youth from all countries to the place. And that will put pressure on existing health and other public goods within the area. There will be incidents of road accidents, because as the population gets the increase and you have operated, apart from traffic from the town, there will be a lot of machinery and vehicles from the oil sector, so lead to accidents. Increased vector-borne disease and STDs. The basin, and on top of the Golden Basin, the river basin, is already known to be a hotspot for a number of vector-borne diseases. And if activities, oil activities are open up and the place gets more populated, meaning that the intensity could be aggravated. Then you have local price inflation. Oil workers generally, as you know, are generally relatively far well paid than the average workers of any country. And therefore, if you have this particular area is generally low income area, they are predominantly farmers. So when suddenly you introduce a group of people who are high salaries, they are going to dictate price levels there, and that itself could lead to a number of challenges. There will be pressure for jobs from indigenous and associated youth violence. This we are seeing the oil, and we've seen this in the oil, and we've seen it around the Tano Basin, where the 6 coastal districts are battling with youth violence. They are craving for jobs. We've seen threats of attack on the Provo gas plant, and then also in the recent essentially connecting facility from ENI, where the people are threatening to attack the place. All issues in Takwa area, we are there for them to draw lessons from. Increase in crime and other social vices. So one of the places you have a lot of people coming in, a lot of outsiders. The population grows. It's likely going to be center for crime and other social vices. Then the next one will be transnational and transregional organized crime. It's quite serious, including terrorism and violent extremism. This is particularly a strong point for the Botanian Basin because of the fact that 5 other regions that surrounding the basin are regions. 4 of those countries surrounding the basin are places that already terrorists are operating from, and extreme violent extremism by individuals are already taking place. And as a country already, as a whole, we are having strong fears that this will spill to the country. So if you have this as a center of magnet for economic activity, and given the vastness of the area, this is a very potent future danger. Let me go with the word that of this. Then there will be escalation of interethnic and other conflicts. But if you do a careful tabulation of conflict areas in the area, I'll just give in my head, and I could count at least 25 major ones within the place. Ethnic, the Numbers, the Bugumbes, Gonjas and Bagles, Gonjas and the Numbers, Gonjas and Kokumbes, Gonjas and Nauris, the Alabano and Goya, quite a number. So this is a economic activity taking place could heighten this because all of them will now be struggling for to take advantage for the economic opportunities that exist. Emergence of xenophobic attacks on migrants, and this is also a potential one because once this high economic activity in place, and migrants are clustered around the place, and then many times many of the locals fall through the cracks because in terms of employment, because they don't have the necessary skills, and therefore the envy, there's a kind of envy on those who are living well, so to speak, and therefore the result is that it could lead to xenophobic attack on some of the migrants there. The third key risk area is inter and intra-community conflicts.
Here we're looking at land tenure, regime, and associated power relations. Here we're looking at a lot of areas. The country has a two-layered land tenure system, the customary one and the statutory land tenure system. The customary one, there are so many problems with the customary one in particular. Not to say that the statutory one doesn't have. And sometimes there are double claims or so many claims to particular pieces of land and all that. And these, when it comes, and because people have particularly chiefs and family heads are the dominant persons who are custodians of it, sometimes they transact on this land without no cost to the population at all. The end result is that the population interest is not taken into consideration when they are transacting the land. And therefore, the end, the population, the one that is bearing the brunt of the impact, what they're taking off, what they could get from those land transactions. And there's a menu of issues that actually come out when you look at this particular topic. Then you have oil and gas revenues and how they are shared and spent. This is quite this is another area that it's already, what I would say, is both present and future danger. One, during the run up to the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, chiefs and people of the areas, frontier region for offshore oil installation, requested that they need a certain percentage of the oil, and that is to be enshrined in the PRME. This was finally rejected, but they finally proposed 10%, but this was rejected. And that the argument was that they will be taken care of, that will be taken care of through the annual budget funding amount and the Basic Assembly Common Fund. Today, the fact that they are still protesting indicates that the allocation to these two sources have not been enough, and they continue to protest. The other, you step back and look at it, the other side of it is that in the case of the mining region, the Mineral Development Fund has made provisions for the local government structure, traditional rulers, and the local assemblies. And I think the justification why it's done there is the fact that because their lands are taken, and also because they bear the externalities, because they bear the externalities of the environment, the environmental, local environmental impact. So they should be given certain share. So that is given them. The second aspect is that chiefs within the mining enclave, statutorily are giving a share of the land rent, which is normally collected by the stew lands and then distributed to them. Now, in the case of the offshore frontier community, I think land rent was not an issue because the activity was taking place offshore. Now you have here, if it takes place, the land is going to be encumbered for a number of activities onshore, including the oil and gas activity themselves. And if there is, would you pay land rent or not? Now the third aspect that even muddy the water is the fact that, assuming that you say that, okay, this for the Voltairean, the activity is onshore, and therefore you probably would make room for direct allocation of rent, revenue and land rent to them. What will happen to the backlash? The communities probably around the frontier to offshore will say, hey, you are discriminating because you cannot do this over there. You are discriminating. So that is the nonsense to this particular challenge. There are a number of back to it. There are a number of ways that probably we can look at how whether we still stick to the district assembly common fund. After all, the district common fund has a mechanism that allows that provides variables to accommodate communities in areas that where mining revenue is being accounted for government. Are we going to create a variable there to accommodate this? Or are we going to amend the Revenue Act to address this challenge? Okay, so three, now we're going to three. That's three we've done. Four, the final one. The final one, this one is quite a melodic issues, but many of them could actually be teased to could have been reallocated to other places. Some of the places that are already presented. The first one is called coordination and cooperation across MGS and MMGs. This is quite a big problem in this country, not just in the oil and gas sector. And sometimes many of the ministries, first of all, because of the local government law, a lot of departments that were under various ministry direct have been devolved to the district level. And therefore, they are supposed to be working to the district assembly. But you see, many of them have not broken their umbilical cord with their mother ministry. And therefore, they are more aligned to the mother ministry rather than the district assembly. So sometimes the assembly does not know, or the assembly is not totally engaged. The assembly sometimes are not aware of what is happening. There are also problems of even coordination among ministries. For instance, the Ministry of Energy is charged with the promotion of oil and gas exploration as one of its key areas. The Ministry of Environment, with EPA as its baby, is the custodian of the environment, is supposed to protect the environment. Sometimes, because of the conflicting mandates, some of these two ministries can have a lot of change. I don't know, I was at a ministry, I realized the point why the EPA had declared zero flaring, and suddenly that time we have not finished the Atomo gas plant. It was whether we should stop oil production or flare. So I guess it's a curious point. So that's just an illustration of the area in the document we look at. The comprehensiveness and coherence of legislation and regulation to address impact. There are quite a number of impacts out there. They are so nuanced that a lot of the existing legislation that we have do not even consider them, much less to talk about addressing them.
And therefore, they are sometimes not captured. And I can recall an area out of the mining, the oil and gas sector, where particularly a whole river was kind of blocked for drinking for gold. And finally, I happen to be lawyers go, the principal witness, what do you call that, witness in court. And the court simply said that was the first, they could not situate it in the legal system, the issues involved. So that's just a tiny example of some of the things that exist there, that are in communities, a lot of challenges that we probably legislation and regulations are probably not be able to capture. And if they have captured them, probably the implementers of these don't strongly appreciate them. And they are very strong issues that we should be looking at. Inefficient capacity and resources for MMPs to manage local impact. A lot of the districts do not have, first of all, they don't have the resources, as we already indicated. A lot of the central government fund
many of them tell you on the face that environmental impact management is one of their least challenges. They don't do anything. And that's one of the reasons why the Ministry of Finance keeps on saying that Zoom Line should be directly funded from the money should be taken from the ministry direct. Is that when the money goes to the district, the environmental management is not part of, it's not the biggest challenge, and therefore the money will go there. So, resources, and have to ensure, even if the resource we are able to carve out a niche to ensure the resources go, how they could be earmarked and we ensure that they address the impact could be another challenge. Then we have the capacity challenge, that they do not, most organizations have no capacity to address this. They don't even appreciate the impact. And particularly, just find so that this will be the first time that oil and gas activity will be onshore in Ghana. Many of us, maybe when it starts, a lot of people will go in there as stories to see. So you don't expect the communities to be able to have the needed capacity to address these. It will take some time. Adequacy of regulatory framework to guarantee the delivery of good, that word is here, not here. Environmental and social impact assessment. The framework as we have now, and I'm happy that it's here. Maybe the latest, but at the time that we were doing this work, there was no indication that there is a comprehensive guideline for environmental impact and social impact assessment onshore. So if we don't have that those guidelines, then it's very, what probably we were asking companies to do is that they should use international best practice. Unless we say that, okay, let's wait and ensure that we have these guidelines in place so that they can serve as basis for the work to be done. I think I've talked about this already when I was so effectiveness of consultation and participatory process. This is a very important issue. And I 2 weeks ago I was in the community, and when we talked about how a company had come to consult them, and only, I was surprised, only around 75 they said, oh my dear, they came to inform us, they didn't consult us. And see, and I think that is a very loaded word. They came to inform us, not to consult us. And then there's a big difference between coming to inform us that this project is coming and consulting us through planning of the project to execution, so that we can identify, we can all appreciate the challenges that are going to come and see whether we can do. And this is led actually a standard UN call for what? Free prior informed consent. The communities must consent to the proposal before you start, and not when you start and then you go there. So these are all issues that we need to look at, and then make sure that our consultative process environment, baseline studies and strategic environmental studies in the Golden Basin and other onshore locations targeted for oil. We need, one of the things that, and many people who are in the research area into mining, that basically when you are doing monitoring, you are monitoring against a change in the environmental indicators. And if there's no baseline, how do you measure the change? And therefore, and you are not just looking at a small targeted area of where the activity is taking. You must, because that is influenced by the entire basin. And therefore, we need a very comprehensive study of the baseline, provide baseline of the whole basin, so that when in future then we can monitoring could be more effective. Okay, I skipped the strategic environmental studies because he has just told me that they finished that. So, suggested approach to our work. So first, there is a narrative to the log frame. The narrative has been used to construct the log frame. So that narrative, you all have, you know. So the narrative will be used to construct the matrix, taking note of challenges identified and axis of why. What we do is that we have, you could look at the challenges identified, enhance them, and then similarly for the actions required. These identified challenges have been used to construct a log frame to provide a needed input. So, with a log frame, what is suggested is that we will have there is the matrix have key concerns, and those key concerns, there have been suggested key concerns that have been populated within the area of key concerns. Then you have policy, legislative, and institutional gaps. Though that is free, and that is the work of the experts. Once you agree on the menu of issues, then you will look at the policy and legislative gaps. Then you would suggest actions to remedy those or to fill in those gaps. And then including responsible actors, and then time frame to deliver this. This is just a guide. If you look at the log frame, the matrix, I think there are rule lines and policy, legislative, and institutional gap. Those lines are not supposed to be there. That means that every line should be written on. You take the issues as they are, and then probably provide the gaps in the second column. I think in brief, this is what I have for you, and I hope provide adequate guidance for your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for the presentation. Colleagues, we're now at the stage where we should begin now to intervene, to enrich the discussion by looking at the report which we read before coming and the presentation. And I think, first of all, seeing to what extent the account captures adequately the high-risk areas in onshore mining. The point is that we can draw from the experience of all of us at the table, those who have it, at this stage, to input into the report itself, to enable us to clarify the issues we discussed in the group sessions. So I think at this stage I will hand over to Dr. Daramani, who will be doing the moderation of this session. Let me repeat, the purpose is to enable us to add to, clarify, challenge what is presented as a base for going forward in clarifying the key issues we discussed in the group sessions. I hope that's clear.
Thank you, Prof. I would also prefer to start. Thank you very much. I think that Prof has given a very good summary of the assignment required of us. So I'll simply just top up what he said. First of all, from the presentation, we've listened to Professor Thomas. He's giving us the key risk areas, which were summarized into 4. The key issue is, in terms of the spread of risk, is the 4 enough? Are there critical risk issues that we believe strongly, either from our observation, from our experience, from reading the material, from listening to him, that we believe should be captured, and sort of limited it to the 4. So that is one key thing that is required of us. In addition to the spread of the risk, the second question we need to ask ourselves is the presentation that has been given, and then from your own experience, is the discussion on each specific risk deep enough to bring out the issue to the extent that we can conclude that indeed this is really a risk when it comes to the extraction of oil and gas onshore. Those are the 2 critical questions that I would like to add to what Prof said. But there's the third one, that perhaps in the course of the discussions, there are particular issues that you probably didn't capture very well. So we are also free, and fortunately he's here with us, to seek clarification, so that that clarification will inform your contribution to these discussions. So let me pause here, and then with the permission of the chair, open the floor for persons who would like to offer us some commentary. Of course, you don't necessarily need to box yourself into those 3 questions or issues that are raised. You are equally free to offer us your personal experience with respect to oil and gas extraction. So who is eager to? Yes.
Thank you, my brother, and thank you, Prof, for the opportunity. There are 2 profs.
Yeah, many.
Anyway, I know of 2, so I can talk about only the 2 of them. Okay. Well, I think it's a very good analysis of what we need to expect when we move into oil on land. But then what I think was not really positioned well is that there's this assumption that the oil should be extracted. And I'm looking at it from the experience that we've had from mining, where we didn't have enough information. And so mining was virtually pushed down our throats. Now the world has moved on. And I heard him say that in passing, the concept of free, prior, and informed consent is no longer a United Nations best practice. It's Ghana's best practice. Because if you look at the directive that we signed on to, which has found its way in the mining policy, mining is not defined as only the solids, but it's inclusive of oil and gas. So the concept of free, prior, and informed consent is applicable to oil and gas. But then the assumption is that, as for oil, it should be mined. And I'm more concerned about the major gaps in the oil and gas exploratory law when it comes to community rights and then the right to compensation and all those. In the mining regime, it's spelled out clearly maybe first we assume that oil was going on in the ocean, so then the community rights should not be catered for. But now it's on land. And if you go to communities in the rural region, they've started rejecting their own projects based on the free, prior, and informed consents. They say they want to be farmers and not leave their lands for oil exploitation. And so a conflict is already in the making. Yes. Some of these things are because we have not gone to the basic problem of livelihood and the choices that community people have to make as to whether they want to remain farmers or they want to be oil exploiters. And if they want to be oil exploiters, are they going to get employment? We saw in the mining regime that it never happened. And so we are going to create more jobs. And my worry is that if you look at the whatever basin, the Volta basin or Tyrian basin or whatever, it's quite a huge size of the land of Ghana. And the area is where we are getting our food stuffs from. So virtually we are all being pushed into just one half of the country, and then one half will be lost forever. And the spillovers would affect even the lands that will not be targeted for oil exploration. So we are not talking about just an isolated case. And I don't know what this TEI now it has expanded to health and impact assessment of all those things. I don't know how it was done because I work in the communities. I'm in link with them. I haven't heard it's being done, and I don't know the level of community participation in this whole process. So some of these things are just the fundamental issues. If not dealt with well, will have multiply effects on all the problems that we can talk about. I'll pause here, but I have other comments on the question of livelihood.
Okay, we will welcome your. Okay, so we can go that line. Yes, boss, and then after that you, and then Prof.
Okay, thank you. My first point is on. I know you looked at the scoping report, and that is what you have. The scoping report for the strategic environmental assessment. But as I've said, that assessment has been completed. So we have the full report. And in that report, there are much more details of the issues that we are looking at now. And looking at those 4 areas, or let me call them 4 pillars that we have, for which we are looking at under the strategic environmental assessment, if I want to group them, they will come under, let me say, before them. In the strategic environmental assessment, we normally look at 4 major pillars. The first one is the natural environment. The natural environment is where the substance is taken. It includes the drain, the water, etc. Then we have the socio-economic. That deals with the land issues and the interaction with people. And then the other one that we also look at is, the second one, socio-cultural, not socio-economic, socio-cultural. Then the third one is the economics. Then after the economics, we look at the institutional. Because most of the time, when we are looking at some of these issues, we make certain assumptions. If you read even the World Bank and all that, in the developed countries, the institutions are very well established. So they have resources. So you can look at everything that you want to do and say this institution will be in charge. They are adequate in order to deal with those things that you are adding. But then over the years, we have realized that our institutions are not strong. So even if you, like for example, as we are sitting and we are looking at these issues, and then we say this is what we're going to do, and these institutions should be able to handle it. When you give them, they will not be able to handle it. So in the assessment, we look at the institution also. So, and see whether those institutions will be able to handle all the recommendations that we come up with. So for these pillars that we have, I think if we want to really examine them, we should add the institution also. Having looked at all the issues, which institution will be responsible and are they adequate? So that is on the part of the strategic environmental assessment. The full report is, I have, let me say, the final draft copy with me. If you like, I can share with you. It's a public document. It's now left with some few things to be done so that it will be published, then distributed in the country. So you can have a copy. That is much, much more detailed. In Prof's maybe concluding remark, he said whether there are guidelines as to guide the investors that will be doing the work if the Mauritanian basin is open. Yes, we have developed a guideline, and when I was contacted for this, towards the end, I sent a copy to Gogi that can be made available to you later on. So we have developed a comprehensive guideline on the environmental assessment that the companies, if they are coming, that is the process they have to go through, detailing the process and the things that they need to look out for. The monitoring regime also is also there, the things that they should monitor. Then finally, before I hand over, I think most of the places that I go to, because of the experience that we have in the mining, when we look at the oil and gas, we also want to reflect that onto the oil and gas. And that is sometimes brings a bit of, let's say, misinformation or misunderstanding. When it comes to oil and gas activity onshore, it doesn't take much land like the way mining do. So that what has to be a bit clear. So if you looking for oil, there is a small place that you go there and then you drill. Once you finish drilling and then you hit oil, the area that you need for that particular wellhead will not even be bigger than, will not be as big as this road. So that is where the wellhead will be. And that is the final land take for the wellhead once the drilling is completed. And the rest of the area that has been used as part of the drilling activity will be handed over back to the owner. Then from that wellhead, you have a pipeline that you see like any other pipeline that you see. From that wellhead to the processing center. So the processing center will be like what we have at the Tama Oil Refinery. So the size of the Tama Oil Refinery is what will be the biggest part of the land that will be taken. So the land take in oil and gas is not as much as in the case of mining. So that is the technical bit I want to bring to the floor. So that when we are looking at it, then we'll look at it that this is the size, or this is what we are looking at in terms of land take. Thank you.
Okay, so you want to comment before we proceed? Okay, so just hold on, quick clarification.
Thank you very much for this. I just want to say there was one important point I didn't mention, that in an onshore oil exploration, I think there are three scenarios. One, that we may discover oil. Two, we may discover oil and associated gas. Three, we may discover, three, we may discover non-associated gas. And four, we may discover oil. Now, if you discover oil, given where the area is, we are likely going to have some proposals that either build power plants there to process the gas, or build pipelines across the country to bring the gas to the coast. You know, there will also be the possibility either you build huge roads or a railway to send condensates if they are in sufficient quantity. So the land state is actually not just where you are envisaging. It's quite important. I missed that slide because in your analysis, I think these scenarios have been given and the implication for land take or land consumption are very different.
Okay. For the purpose of this meeting, obviously there's going to be comparative differences and similarities between oil and gas. But the key question that this particular discussion would like to center on is, in spite of those differences and similarities, do they in any way diminish the significance of the key issues that we are identifying here, and many more that perhaps are likely to come here? So let's take note of those differences and similarities, but relate them to the extent to which they highlight this or diminish the significance of these gaps.
Yes, and honestly, I would say they don't diminish them at all.
Okay.
At all. So it doesn't matter whether they take a space as small as this square in the middle, or they take the whole compound of this hotel. They do not diminish. You know, I am currently facilitating a process for a company that is interested in doing wind farm in the Adar traditional area. And they're saying that, oh, and I'm saying, relating this story because of what our brother mentioned. So the company is saying that, okay, so we will need just parcels of land for the turbines. And the turbines has a foundation measuring a certain, size. And once we construct and we install the turbine, that is all. The farmers can still go ahead and do their farming. And I'm like, wait, before you finish the construction of that turbine, what will happen in the environment? What will happen in the area? There's going to be a whole lot of dislocation, displacement, and limitations placed on activities and so on and so forth. So whichever way we look at it, the mere presence of an investment in the local area is an intervention. And therefore, we want to look at it within that broad perspective of what does this intervention mean for local people. So we do not want to even go into that discussion. It is important to look into it. Going back to the three issues or areas we're supposed to focus on in this discussion, I just want to say that, yes, these four thematic areas identified are relevant. But for me, and for my experience in working around the communities, I think there are two additional thematic areas I would suggest we add to make them cross-cutting thematic areas because they reflect in each of the four. And one of it is gender equality and social inclusion perspectives. Because for each of these thematic areas, the situation is not the same for everybody. The analysis we have presented in this document is not the same for everybody. Prof was talking about the revenue from stool lands. Recently, in one of our projects, we did a review of the Stool Lands Act. And it was shocking to officers that they were there perpetuating some gender inequalities. Because if you look at the constitutional provision for the disbursement of this revenue, there is a percentage that in the constitution it says to the traditional leader for, I've forgotten the exact expression, but in keeping with his status. So 25% of the amount goes to the chief, the paramount chief of the area. But we know in our customary setup that every traditional setup is made of a chief and a paymaster. We have a paramount chief, we have a paramount paymaster. We have a divisional chief, we have a divisional paymaster. So if we have a constitutional provision that qualifies a chief in keeping with his status as a chief to get 20%, 25% of revenue from activities like this, what is going to the pay matters? Because they also have a certain keeping of status to maintain. So there is a certain gender equality and social inclusion perspective that we need to pay attention to. And I think it has to be a cross-cutting theme. The other theme I think we need to add as a cross-cutting theme is the area of skills and expertise for engagement. And I think Prof rightly alluded to this fact that the effectiveness of consultations is one of the main problems we have when it comes to managing these processes. And it is true. So we have certain agencies that have the mandates by law to manage some of these processes. But it's sad to say that in many cases, even when they have good intentions to do it the right way, because of the limited expertise and skills in facilitating consultations, things are not done well. And therefore you go to the communities and it's like nothing has been done. And yet you go to the public offices and they say things have been done. So those are the two thematic areas I propose we add. Not to make them separate, but the two will be cross-cutting thematic areas which runs across each of the four we have here.
Okay.
Now, my last, I also have a lot of comments, but just the last one.
Okay.
The issue about whether the discussions under each of the thematic areas was exhaustive enough. I think, for me, from where I sit, as far as the land is concerned, I don't think it was discussed exhaustively enough. And I'll just give you one example. So it says here that under the issue 1, compulsory land acquisition by the government. Again, like my sister said, we are writing as though it's a given. It has to be done. And therefore, once it has to be done, what should we do about the issue? No, it shouldn't come across as it has to be done. And the issue for the land livelihoods, the first issue is compulsory land acquisition by the government. And the challenges, 2 of them, are compensations for acquired land fee. Before the compensation payment is done, there are certain processes. So what we should be concerned about is, are we managing the process of compensation in a way that gives due regard for the customary land rights? Are we so there are a lot to be done to look into that before we can come out and say, even as the compensation paid applied for the land fair or whatever. So I think, as far as I am concerned, the land aspect needs quite a bit more to be able to flash out the issues and be able to come up with the right strategy. There are quite a lot.
Okay, that's good. When I say the depth of the discussions, I know that even if they give us 1 week here, and we pick up on land, we are going to go anywhere. So I say so with a caveat.
No,
but your point is well taken.
No, but I just want to make a last comment.
Sure.
You know, and I want to make this comment because that is what we hear anytime we are talking about the land discussion.
Okay.
It is a complex dynamic in our country here, true. But it is not an impossible area that will make us think that, oh, when we start discussing land, we'll never finish, so let's just keep it at that. It's not true. It is possible to define within the work we are doing which areas in the land aspect we want to focus on. And it is possible to provide a good technical analysis of the issues relevant to our discussions so that we can address them well.
Yes.
So I don't want us to make that.
Not at all. We won't do that. I'm just saying that it's a very good intervention. This particular platform provides the space for deepening discussions in the area that we have identified. So there will be the opportunity to highlight on the essential or fundamental area that you think must be done and cannot wait. Okay, yes, Prof. Okay.
Valerie, can we hear the discussion?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
think to say first, I thought the mapping is extremely useful, very thorough, and I particularly like how it's structured around presenting challenges and then actions required on each point. I think it really helps to focus on concrete actions. I wanted to just raise some issues that kind of don't fall so neatly within that dichotomy, is that because they're both challenges and actions, they're tools to remedy the challenges and challenges. One of them is communication. So forgive me if this has already been mentioned, because I couldn't hear everything that was said, but there's discussion around consultation, but not so much about communication. And I think that a very common thing that happens with onshore developments is raised expectations, and I think that's alluded to in the report. But you know, Ghana has gone through this with discoveries and production, and so you've had to deal with raised expectations. I think onshore it is a specific issue. And one thing in terms of the action required, I suppose, would be thinking about who speaks. What agency speaks to communities? Is it GNPC? Is it the Petroleum Commission? Is it the local assemblies? Is it the national government? Who in the national government? So quickly you see that I think these need to be coordinated on the same message. And I think that's a very challenging thing, but I think that would be an issue on how we develop coordinated communication strategy. And then I think the other corollary is interagency coordination, because in the offshore, it's been pretty much government agencies that are specialized in the petroleum sector that are active or that intervene. But onshore, the existing ministries and agencies already have a strong foothold, literally, on the onshore. So I think the interagency coordination is all the more important to sort of orchestrate. And the last thing is perhaps just to ensure that GNPC doesn't act on behalf of the government where it should not, or supplant the role of government where it should not, and to be clear about what the limits of GNPC's role is onshore in terms of public services or engagement, or well, maybe not engagement, but I think services and promises made, etc. So I think that's just what I wanted to add. Thanks for letting me pop in.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, yes, Ron was up, please.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I think that I would just like to talk a bit about the land livelihoods and
residential displacement.
Yes. You see, the Bolton sedimentary basin, or let me just talk about the water basin in itself. The people who are there, most of them are farmers, and they are tenant farmers. And even with that, most of the, especially as you come towards the southern, portion, there are already existing ownership problems amongst, for instance, Umewu or Pamine and all those places. Now, they're very serious ones. And then even within the various holdings, the tenorial, system is not even very clear. And so, because of the way we already have hyped
oil and gas that will change everything in the lives of people. Many of these people who are also inhabiting these places may have those expectations. Even those who actually are tenants and may not be, looking at the ownership. The owners may have conflicts also with them because they are there also trying to live or be able to, have adequate livelihood from their family. And then the owners also say that they own the land, and therefore, whatever accrues from there, they should have. So all these things are very serious issues. But one of the key issues that was mentioned is even the messy nature of our land tenure system, the ownership also of the land. Who owns what? As we sit, all Prof mentioned 10 regional new regions. Actually, the existing, before that, the 6, including the other 4, there is no cadastral, plan for each of there is no demarcation cadastral between regions. If you go into districts, nothing like that. Actually, action was taken, but the cost of doing cadastre even along our regional boundaries was so high, Ghana government cannot afford. And so we need to look at the implications of some of the gaps that we are having, especially with regard to land ownership. And before even we think about compensation, because already where we have stable, I'm using quote unquote, land ownership rights. And let's take Accra here, for instance. Government, the compensations that have been computed, government cannot pay. Even at the point they were talking about bonds, issuing bonds for generational purposes. So that is something that these are 3 interlinked things, that land livelihoods and then of course issues that deal with displacement. Now, most of the people who are inhabiting those places, who are farmers, are illiterate. And mentioning oil and gas, many of them will not even understand the way. But because of the way we communicate, because Ghana here, as a matter of fact and truth, our cross-sectorial relationship is poor. And that in itself is a huge problem. How do we really sort out issues that, even within the same ministry, the intra, agency issues, how do we solve them? We talked about land, we didn't talk about forests, we didn't talk about, the rights, even the gap, with regard to when somebody is cutting a tree that is not even within a forest reserve. They say, because it's not covered by forest reserve, there's no law. You and EPA laws are there. And so there are so many things that we have to, and there's, of course, many of the real core areas within this vast, Voltairean basin. The communities are huts, settlements that are very, very far away from each other, with extremely poor transportation routes. And with this, you have a lot of criminals also going up there, believing that because there's oil and gas, there's also money there. We have similar situations in Takoradi. Even though our offshore oil is very far away, you have people moving there and then, perpetrating criminal activities. So these are some of the things that we need to, as we discussed, especially the first one, we have to look at it and try to disaggregate them and link them in such a way that the correct coherence will be there, and then we'll be able to actually digest, to bring out clearly what we should be able to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, there are also hands here. Thank you.
I just want to ask a couple of process questions.
Okay, good.
And then there's a technical question that Thomas might be able to. I was just wondering what exactly we are meant to do with the draft report of the consultants? Because, I mean, when I was coming, having read it, I had a number of comments on various aspects of it. I don't know whether, I mean, this discussion allows us to go through those, or whether we are supposed to distill high-level things and intervene at that high level, but not get into the detail. That's my first question. My second has to do with how the outcome of these discussions will be related to the strategic impact assessment processes of the EPA. Because I'm sure that the EPA has done sort of very deliberate work, but presumably interventions like this may be able to improve the processes along the line. And I don't know whether, and I don't expect that that matter can be resolved here, but I'm just saying that there's an agenda item about how these processes relate to each other. So those are my two process questions. My more technical question, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so let's deal with the process questions before we go into the technical issues.
An extremely important point. First response is commenting on the report is perfectly well. Raising issues, obviously, can take some impact analysis. And this is important because you raise the question of workforce. You're absolutely right. Most of us are hearing about the competition and EPA report, those not a little bit. That's okay. My understanding is that at the end of this work here, you will address the consultant's report, its main account, added to it, influence it, whatever. From that, and I guess also now the EPA report as well, these all become part of the basis for further thinking together, not by us, take it forward. So our task is essentially to strengthen the output of the consultant's work as far as we can. It then forms part of other efforts put together. Is that clear about that? So please feel free to raise your point on the report as we go.
Yes, I think Prof is right. The little I would just add, based on conversation with the organizers, is that at the end of this session, I think they were very careful in the choice of persons to hear, because everybody here has something to offer. There will be a number of tracks. One of them is what Prof said. The consultant may want to improve upon the quality of the report based on the discussions here. But of course, the organizers would also like to pick up some key issues for policymakers to address. How do we, some of these challenges that are mentioned, some of them are old, some may be new. How, in the context of the new oil extraction, can we avoid or better manage some of it? So we'll be picking up some of the issues here for the attention of policymakers. And so a bit about the strategic environmental assessment. I'm not too sure we're going to put it forward as a document for discussions, but it is a document that can influence the issues being put forward here. So it might be serving as one of the reference material that when we go into breakaway goods, that people might want to reflect upon. But of course, as we are here, we also want to go back being influenced by the discussions. So if we have access to some of the material there, you take it home and then you can continue to engage in your own rights. So that is just a bit to know. Now you're
I do.
Oh, sorry.
I suspect that
Yes.
when we get to talking about organizing into groups,
Yes.
some of this discussion will practical
Yes.
work
Yes.
about how that is
Yes.
done. But I mean, there are several things that I have here. I mean, and just to give you some examples, there are 2 or 3, shall I call them, propositions in various parts of the report, which struck me as erroneous and liable to undermine. I mean, they were not necessarily central, but I mean, they just struck me as so starkly erroneous that I thought that they would undermine the status of the standing of the report to the end of the. I mean, there are several places where the Volta River Basin is described as the largest river basin in Africa. I mean, that can't be right. The Congo, the Nile, the Niger, the Zambezi must be bigger. Okay? I saw a statement that there's no, how is it, something about there being no rules about allocation in the Mineral Development Fund. That again is also wrong. Okay? I mean, so let me just leave those 2 examples. Okay. But let me come to my technical question. And Thomas and other geologists, the Voltairean Basin, I know that you sort of try to suggest for us that there is a difference between obviously the river basin and the geological basin. Now what I don't understand is when we talk about the Voltairean Basin, is the geological structure, does it extend beyond Ghana? I know that the river basin extends beyond Ghana. Are there, and when you say that if indeed it extends beyond Ghana, what implications might that have for reservoirs across the national park? That's a technical.
Okay, so just hold on after Richard, then you will respond. Yes.
Thank you very much for actually inviting me. Just a few preliminary comments and views after I had read the report. Clearly, I just wanted to be confused that a river basin with volcano rocks. I mean, we all know that the volcano formation is quite different from the river basin itself. And I read that the report dwelt a lot more on the Voltairean rocks, but I think that those rocks, as well as the basin rocks, are those which were recently covered by airborne geological survey, and that was the most recent significant work that was done in those areas. And the rocks in the Kita Basin are much younger than those of the Voltaire. And then we all know that oil and gas accumulation, age of the rocks are very crucial in terms of oil and gas accumulation. But I think that the focus was much more on the Voltaire rocks as opposed to looking a little bit more on the Kita Basin, because there are the Ketu North, the Ketu South, the Kita, they're all from, because it's quite a large area onshore before it extends into the sea. And I was thinking that emphasis could relate on those ones too as well. And I also saw in the report that we talk about compulsory land acquisition in the mining sector. There is nothing like compulsory land acquisition. In fact, they're all extractives. We all know that mining and oil and gas. If you study mineral economies, it's virtually across. But by maybe there could be hydrocarbon currencies as well. So by hydrocarbon currencies, I'm talking about the lignite, Tarzans, there may be Tarzan, other things, given the age of the, given the age of the, Vodian rocks, which are far older than the Cretaceous rocks found in database. So I think that we need to look at that as well. And just to inform the House, ECOWAS is drafted an ECOWAS carbon development policy document. And that document will be adopted by the Council of May, Instead, June 6th. And that clearly spells out the way ECOWAS has to develop its carbon resources. And so, in trying to position ourselves at this stage, it is very useful, or it will be very useful for us to take that into context whilst we develop the appropriate documents and processes. So given that, I read about there are certain detailed comments that I also have. I believe when we go into the breakout sections of these things will come out very clearly. So having said that, I will just pause for now and when we go to the breakout sessions we'll go into the details.
Okay, I will give you the chat. I know that you respond, but let's deal with the. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want you to respond to yes. So after that,
the issue of the mining, maybe I don't want to go to legalistics, but it meant what it meant is that the land has been incumbent. I mean, by government. When a mining concession is land incumbent by government, because that concession is a lease between the Ghana government and the mining company, and no private people can have access to the lease, even for forest, for wood. So that's what I meant. Not so if the legal, I don't know whether it makes sense. Yeah. That the land is just incumbent. That's what I mean.
No, you are.
Okay, so
are you going to address?
Are you?
Okay.
You want to respond?
Well, let me talk a bit about it. You see, we are many geologists here. We have been trying to avoid speaking geology. And Richard was mentioning.
Why not? We are here to learn as well.
Yes.
So if you speak the geology that will give us better off, we appreciate so.
Yes.
Don't make it too technical.
No, I will try to
confuse.
I've been trying to make it as pedestrian as possible.
Okay.
So I keep on. The Portland Sedimentary Basin, of course, is covers 43% of Ghana land area, and it is the biggest onshore sedimentary basin in Ghana. And of course, it is contiguous with, of course, it continues into Togo, part of the northern part of Togo, and into Benin. And so even some of the type area names we share it with Benin, And of course, Richard has mentioned.
So excuse me.
Yeah.
So the question about whether the basin was specific in Ghana mean that extend beyond Ghana.
Yes, exactly. So it's Togo, but not Burkina.
Okay.
And not Ivory Coast directly.
Okay.
Of course, they are indirect because, for instance, if we are looking at its western extent, let me start from the southern part. As from Moti, as we'll see it as pendant on. I mean.
Look at the map up for
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Where is the?
Yeah, the map.
There's a map there.
The map in the
When you were here.
presentation.
Yeah. Yeah. So from Moti, that's where we know we have the Moti faults. And as you go, you'll see it around Nkoko, Tafo, Nkoko, and then you don't see it there. That's the western, extent. And then it's subdued as you get towards Techima, but fringes Techima a bit, and then goes straight in the northern extent. No, before I did the western.
You might the pointer.
Yeah, you go when you're coming from. For those who have driven from Tamale to. Wait, okay, let me use the point. So for those who have driven directly from Tamale towards Wa, when you descend the Larabanga, you start leaving the Voltaire, and as you go northwest, you also see as from Karminga, as you descend towards the White Water, and that's the limit. Okay, but here, as you the western and the eastern, it goes into part of Togo and then into Benin. And as you come down here, the extent is marked by the Oti River. And so from here, you start going into other rocks. I don't want to mention those rocks. But then, the issue here is that if you look at the age here and the age here, it's almost 600 million years. And with that, compared to most areas where we have, hydrocarbons onshore, this is an area that, of course, Ghana, we are happy to explore and to know, but there are wrong relationships that we may have between a relation to the country to other regions may not be that expressed. Okay, but then as you go from here, as you go westward, we have more of sandstones and less of shales and other things. Of course, we are looking at source rock issues, and the thickness of the basin increases as you go this way. So, of course, as we and of course, rightly, one of the lines that GMPC used was this line, and of course another one here, and therefore to say that because of the fact that the oil onshore exploration or drilling will be point based and therefore may not even actually affect other areas may be understated, because even with the lines that GMPC was they were not drilling, they were just running seismic. There were issues, very many issues. People are just already clamoring for, the largest thing may come out of that. And so we have to look at them, these things very seriously, and then try to, see how, of course, if you look at what we have here on land and compulsory acquisition and other things, we don't have any land experts here, or is there one? We have, Oh, okay. Of course, I wanted to talk about land aspect from land commission. We'll talk about land commission so that they can tell us a bit about that.
That's the problem we have.
Yeah.
So the land commission are technocrats. We also have land experts who are not practicing in the land commission, but who are civil society actors with land expertise.
Well, the reason why I said this, with all the respects that I have for other experts, Lands Commission has been given the mandate, to manage government lands, all lands and government lands, whether acquisition or ownership, it depends on who owns what, but the registration process is their remit. But then, with regard to acquisition and then compensation, it is within their, mandate. And that's why I want to, because there are so many problems that relate, and they know they are experts in the problems, but of course maybe not the solution.
Yeah, so I think that what the lady is talking about, there's a clear difference between mandate and skills.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
There are those that have institutions with mandates, and then there are other individuals who have skills in the expertise. So I think we can live with that.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay, so to the specific question of whether there could be, the question is being asked whether there could be.
Yes.
And I was just wondering if there are any comments on other waste areas apart from the land business.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. There were few hands, and I will give them the chance, and I would want you, as you raise your own points, take account of what the chair has said, so that we can make progress. And I would also like to give our colleague a minute opportunity to respond, because there were a lot of responses to his intervention. We are really running out of time as the conversation continues to be more exciting. Time does not become our good friend. Yes.
Thank you very much. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't read the report. I only had it yesterday evening, and I'm an absentee Catholic, so if there's a Catholic this year, I'll prefer to confess. But a few things that I think I would want clarification. Is it that we are looking at the exploration stage, or in general, we are looking at something that goes beyond that? So I think that has to be clear. The other thing is, if it is not just the exploration stage, and we are looking at the entire spectrum, then I would suggest that we look at the exploration, the risk, and the mapping issues should be tied to the various stages. The exploration, the development where you put in lots of infrastructure, and then the production. And if we do that, then we can segment these risks based on the stages. That is one thing. And then two, we don't even know whether indeed there will be a commercial find in these areas. So all those are things that we have to take into consideration. They could go in there, maybe explore, not find enough commercial, and then they leave that there. So all these issues, and as I said, in the other sessions, for want of time now, I think these are the two. But when we get into a group session, I would, after my confession, I would probably bring up some of these issues. Good, thank you.
Good. Yes. Give it to him, and then after that.
Well, thank you. I will just make a few contributions. I want to thank you for your experiences that I'm learning a lot from. But there was something that is very cardinal that is missing, and that's the environment. I don't know how that falls into all of this, but the very first thing that is at risk, if we are talking about oil exploration, is the environment, because all of this depends on the environment. So I would have expected the environment to be one of the receptors that will be experiencing very critical risks. And under that, we'll have groundwater and surface water, because those are two important components that people living in the communities are going to be suffering from. Groundwater and surface water. Again, the aquifers, I don't know how the geology of Ghana is, but the aquifers are also going to be at risk, and that should be under environment. And then pollution. Very little mention was made of pollution as well. I'm not saying pollution is at risk, but in terms of governance, the document, I didn't have the time to read it because this was really important for me to attend and to read what the documents are sent to me like 2 days ago. But in terms of target values, intervention values, regulatory thresholds, okay, in Nigeria, for example, we have very serious issues with those regulatory thresholds, because even when the operators are keeping to the permissible levels, there are still pollutions. And so you take them to court and they win the cases, and because they are not releasing more than what we have as a regulatory threshold, but they are polluting the environment. So that's also one of the things I would have to consider. And then lastly, I know that strategic impact assessment doesn't really go into detail, but one of the things we should consider is that current EIAs have gone beyond just environmental impact assessments. It incorporates gender impact assessment, it incorporates human rights impact assessment, it incorporates environment, social, and health. So now it is more or less ESHRIA instead of just AIE. Because when you do that, you incorporate aspects of security, you incorporate aspects of human rights, you also look at gender, because like someone mentioned, when we are talking about local impacts, women are affected differently from how men have been affected, particularly because of our primary livelihood structures, farming and fishing. So those are also part of things we should consider.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes. And okay, all right.
Okay, thank you. I am happy that some are indicating that they haven't had time to read the report. Maybe the formulation is different in the report, but issues of environment are aptly captured, and the health, the community health, health, pollution issues are discussed, water, groundwater issues are discussed over there. So, this is the way it's captured. So maybe we need to read the report to get a sense of some of the things that are there.
Okay. Yes, my friend.
Chair, thank you. I'm glad my earlier comment received a lot of additional comment from the table. And yeah, the point that I was raising is not that land issues were not particularly necessary. I made that observation after I have said that the strategic environmental assessment that we have done is so detailed. And if you look at the issues that we have raised concerning land, as I have, the report is in my phone before I was talking, there were several things that we have identified about land. But the point that I was raising was, in doing the oil and gas, it is not going to be like people are going to be moved away. Farmers are not going to go there to do their farming. That was the point. Maybe I didn't raise it properly. But then, with regards to what is happening in the Protean Basin, the work that GMPC did in terms of the seismic survey has given us some indication of what we should expect in case we are going in to do a lot of activity. I have been there personally, going around with the GMPC team when we were doing the seismic. The lines that we see, I have gone through all those places. The farmers that they have passed the survey line through, how they have been enumerated and compensated. Those were things that we have asked GMPC to do, and they have done that, and those compensations, the workers that came, all the work camps, everything that they have done, those things have given us some indication on the things that we should build on if we want to look at the assessment. But then again, around the table, I've been hearing, or even with the report, we must be aware that definitions in this kind of work are very, very important. Now, if you go to the international arena in the environmental matters, definitions are very key. National definitions are very key. We keep on telling people that in Ghana, when we say environment, it doesn't only mean the natural. It includes social, it includes health, and it includes cultural. So if you take our law, the definition of environment, so if we say environmental assessment, we are not looking at only the natural environment. We are looking at the entire spectrum that the law has stipulated. So recently we have been saying that if you submit a report to us because of the influence we've gotten from World Bank and then IFC, you see people reporting and they said ESHI or ESIA. We say anybody who brings a report to us like that, we will reject it. Because if you do that, you are taking out the social, out of the cultural, out of the health. And then those in the health area will also say we are leaving out that. So it is YIA in Ghana. If you go elsewhere, you can define it the way they define it there. We are being on the IIA, that's International Association. When you go there, they disaggregate everything. And then people talk about cultural impact, they talk about this, they talk about this. But in Ghana, it is an integration that we have. And then finally, the C that we have done. We have done the scenarios. It's one of the tools that we use. And what Prof said. And then it covers from exploration through development, through production. And then what about if you have oil and gas? We look at that scenario. What about if you have oil and gas? How would the infrastructure be like? We looked at all that. So it is so much detail. I didn't want to dilute whatever we are going to do here. That's why I just mentioned it briefly. I wanted us to have it outside so that we can focus on what we want to do, and as they rightly said, we can have it side by side. We can influence. I don't want to dilute whatever we are doing here.
Okay.
Because of that.
Okay. Thank you very much. There is tea and we call it generally coffee break, but because of the short of time, or cocoa break, cocoa or cocoa. Because of the short of time, you can just quietly move if you have appetite for it and come back to sit down. I just want that to make progress. With the permission of the chair, I will just flag some issues and then give the mic back to him to finish this session, and then we'll make progress on the next action. From the discussion that we had so far, I think that we have benefited from new pieces of information. At the very least, I think the two profs sitting there deserve some. We own some credit hours from there, and the Vice Chancellor is here. They've given us new pieces of information. We know certain new policies that are emerging or have emerged. And so those new documents will form part of the working of this particular workshop. The second thing is that we appear to be validating the report of the consultant because I haven't seen any sharp disagreement that the 4 points listed here are not critical gaps to be considered. But we do agree that there's a need for deepening the issues under them. But we recognize also that there is diversity in each of them, whether you are talking about the specific issue or you are talking about the actors involved. We also raised some questions for reflection. There are issues that have been raised that we don't have immediate answers to them. For example, the strategic impact assessment. Even if we have the report right now, because of time limitation, we don't have the competency now to go into a discussion of the report. But it's a good instrument for us to reflect upon. We propose some additions into the 4 issues that have been listed here. We will not limit, especially when you go to the group work, we will not limit you into what we will give you. We'll give you the freedom. If you go into your group and you feel that one of these is even more important than what you have been given, we will simply request you add it to your task and give us the 2 or 3. And so the new addition we have are skills, community rights, the environment, the fiscal one, gender, communication, institutions. These are the critical additions that I have captured in the discussions. So we will reflect and see whether they form new set of critical gaps that we need to add, or they can be subsumed under the 4 issues that have already been listed here. We will look at that as we make progress. There are also issues about the process. They were clarified anyway, but we keep learning and learning. So anytime there is a question, it helps us to learn. And it will keep shaping the process as we go. In the end, we want to have a very good product. Finally, there are also issues about context, and that context matters, especially in the response to whether EIA should be ESIA or whatever. I know that in Netherlands, when they say strategic environmental assessment, they mean environmental and social impact assessment. So depending on the country in which you are coming from, the name may differ. The content may be the same, but the name may differ. So context is important. So on that note, I would like to revert to the chair to wrap up this, and then we can proceed to the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Given the time spent, I'll declare any comment I have to the discussion of the group sessions coming up. I will now invite single related the absent person. Coco. Are you down?
Yes, I'm done. Management. By virtue of my being a member of an oil-impacted community, I can talk about oil spills, I can talk about local impacts, I can talk about some of the things that we do rightly, and some of the things that we are doing that is not very good. So this was roughly put together because I didn't have the time. I have lectures. Because of the nature of the people that called me, I couldn't say no to this. So I will just paint the picture. Nigeria is not far from Ghana, so I know some of the things I will say. It's not very new to you. There are things you already know, but maybe by virtue of my growing up in the community and drinking or harvesting very serious acid rain, I'll be able to explain some of the things that you don't see in the papers and in the reports. Alright, so just an introduction. The Nigerian example is a great photo that we have, the potential impacts on locals, and then the recommendations. So, the number of people are preaching renewable energy. Unfortunately, in West Africa, we are very much concentrating on fossil fuels. Although it will continue, reports say it will continue for the next 50 years, but what is going to happen to the impacts? Because when people start packing their bag and baggages and leaving us with our impacts, it will be something very terrible for us to contend with. As long as oil production is concerned, there is nothing like no spills. However careful you are, however perfect the process is, there is nothing like no spills. There are bound to be spills. The question will be the magnitude of the spills. Are they minor? Are they major spills? But there are no spill situations. There are no spill situations. So host communities continue to suffer impacts from the activities of operators. And that has created a number of conflicts, and that's why I like the report that Prof put together. A number of both intra and inter-communal conflicts. We've experienced a number of them, and to the community people, the operator is responsible for it.
for the conflict, because in short, the case could be worse in Ghana. If 80% of their land is owned by community, it was still on behalf of the local communities or the ordinary Nigerian people. So, the problem used to be, or the argument used to be, all lands belong to government. What about the things under the land? And then it was amended to say anything below 6 meters belong to the government. And so the local communities would then say, okay, at least the pipeline is not a natural process. So we can tamper with the pipeline, and whatever happens to what is in the pipeline, and we should be able to explain that. So we have a Land Use Act of 1972 that gives all land to government, and so it's easier for government to come and say, oh please, your house was here before, we gave you a certificate of occupants, but please, we are still the same people that gave you the certificate, could you move, we need to use this land for this. So it's a bit easier for government because the law has been there. But in your case, it might be a bit difficult, because if clans own land, you cannot just come and say, please, could you excuse us, we want to use this land, and it's going to be a bit difficult. So government preparedness to protect ecological systems were not there. For the first 10 years, between 1958 and 1968, there was no law for environmental protection in Nigeria. And so the system was on autopilot. It was just running. There was nothing arresting or trying to protect the environment. We operated our oil sector without an environmental protection law for 10 years. So in 1969, we had the Petroleum Act. That was not really a law, but at least it gave provision to the Minister of Petroleum Resources to outline regulations to operate, so to protect the environment. So even as of 1969, we only had a provision saying that the Minister of Petroleum Resources has the responsibility or the mandate to provide those kind of laws, but we really did not have a strong law to protect the environment. And so our laws, our legislations and regulations are still pretty weak. Even the weak ones we have, enforcing them is also very difficult. And so first things first, so Ghana is in a very good position not to experience what Nigeria passed through, but to learn from Nigeria's mistakes. And I'm going to outline some of the mistakes. So very, very important for us at this point is to do an environmental audit. Okay, you can call it an integrated baseline if you like the Prof mentioned, birds or fishes that we had in this particular river before contamination started. As a result, whenever we take cases to court, cases of pollution, it is always difficult to prove beyond reasonable doubt that this number of species have disappeared, because you did not have that kind of study before oil exploration started. So it's very important for us to conduct baselines. Now also, what would be very good for Ghana is to be busy now developing community development plans. Because we also do not have that in Nigeria. It is now that organizations are starting to partner with communities to develop community development plans. What this does is an operator will not just come into the community and say they are doing corporate social responsibility and build 6 classroom blocks when that's not what we want. Sometimes they pick a few people and do what we call leadership capture. They meet a few chiefs in the community and then give them money and then send a few people to the university, and then to be all over the news that they have scholarship and programs, because the communities do not have community development plans. And then the engagement and communication strategy, like Valerie mentioned, it's difficult to communicate to local communities in Nigeria because there is no communication strategy. So she just took that from one of the things I highlighted. There is no communication and engagement frameworks. And so sometimes communication is truncated at some level without communities getting to know what is happening. Now we are trying to formalize what we call the corporate social responsibility of operators. Because we read a lot of reports about what Shell or other companies are doing, but when you get to the community, it's complete opposite of what you are reading in the papers. And so government now is developing we have a view that we are hopeful it will become a law soon, called the Impacted Petroleum Host and Impacted Communities Bill. Petroleum Host and Impacted Communities Bill. Now, we are in a fix because we do not know how to differentiate between a host community and an impacted community. That is what is holding the bill. Okay, two issues holding the bill is how to differentiate it. So we've got to a point where we say we need to have a pause from where we can just get money and address the environmental issue first while we are looking for who the polluter is. And also from that pause, we could address development issues in the community. But there are communities that pipeline crisscross their land, but they have not experienced one oil spill before. But they are host to petroleum infrastructure. So those kind of people, they are saying they are host communities, even if they don't have the offices of operators in their community, but they are hosting oil infrastructure. So why would you want to exclude them from benefiting from those kinds of funds? So that's where we are now. And I think that will help because all the funds that the operators use to build classroom blocks in communities will now go into a particular trust. And the communities themselves will sit down in a town hall meeting to decide what to use the money for. Okay, so that's where we are. So again, preparing for environmental pollution. This is the time to prepare for environmental pollution. Now that you are designing onshore exploration, is the time to prepare for environmental pollution. And how to prepare is to have a trust fund. Pollution has not started, but there is money in case there is pollution. That trust fund needs to be there. That is practiced in the US, it's also practiced in the UK. Okay? It's like the Super Fund Trust of the US that operated from 1981 to about 1986. Taxes were collected from chemical and petroleum dealers and put in a trust for them to be able to address pollution. And then research centers and laboratories, those funds are things that we can have in our universities, but it's also very important. And then frameworks for conflict identification and mitigation, because the communities, very little things cause the clashes. Sometimes it could be that there was a spill from a pipeline that crisscrosses two communities. And then when compensations are being paid, it's either paid to the community where the last chunk of the pipeline was. And so that leads into a very big crisis that will lead to casualties or fatalities. So we are also now developing a mechanism, a commission that will deal with conflict identification and also how to mitigate the conflict. And then needs assessment. It is now that Nigeria is becoming aware that there is need for needs assessment in the different communities. The error has been that we believe that there are a number of skills we think females will be interested in. And so when we pick 3-4 females from a particular community, we will think that they should be interested in hairdressing, in sewing clothes, and stuff like that. But that's different. It's different now because you train people in those skills and they go back to their community and still find themselves in oil theft, oil bunkering, and artisanal refining. So we have learned to go back to the community to ask them, what do you want to do if we train you so that you don't go into illegitimate ventures like artisanal refining? And they are now telling us, either I want to be involved in pipeline fabrication, I want to go to school, I want to be involved in this particular type of business. And for piloting, communities where we have piloted that approach, we have seen that pipeline interference has reduced because people are now being trained in what they are interested in rather than what we think they should have been interested in. So the process of getting that skill set where people are interested in was derived from a need assessment that was done in oil impacted communities. And we don't need to wait until we start experiencing oil spills here before we do that. It's something that CSOs or NGOs in Ghana could do to identify needs in different communities and what they will be interested in doing. And then the oil ownership thing. There is oil in my backyard. Why should I be going to school, or why should I do other things when there is oil in my backyard? Okay. In the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, there is that mentality that there is oil in my backyard. That's what we call it. So people feel that they are entitled. there's an entitlement mentality that I'm supposed to benefit from the oil in my backyard. Now, when you start having those kind of mentality, you need to look for a way to ensure that the resources from the oil gets into the community. And that's one of the things we are thinking that the Petroleum Boost and Imperfect Communities Bill will address. And then the fiscal regime, I looked at the report and I saw some aspects of the fiscal regime. I don't know how that of Ghana is well structured for now, but our fiscal regime is something that has undergone a lot of changes because we have the perennial problem of corruption, but it's now a bit strong. It's now a big strong such that a number of checks and balances have been introduced into the process. But where we are at the moment is the excess crude account, which I think will also be an issue in Ghana because you cannot peg the price of petroleum at a particular amount. It's either going to go below or it's going to go above. When it goes above, the excess on what was predicted or estimated has to go somewhere. Okay, so how do you manage that? In Nigeria, they have an account for it with some very weak regulations that people can always put their hands into it and play with the money. So it's about the regime and what the country wants and what we want to do with that kind of money. And then benefit sharing. We have seen that in Nigeria, the benefit does not really come down to the local communities, even as they are the ones suffering the impacts. And so communities now have been brought to the table to talk about how they want to benefit from the oil in their backyard. And that's where we talk about oil fields or mining operations and how oil wells have been allocated to people. You see that hardly can you find somebody from a local community owning oil wells. And so now that people are more sensitized and they are aware of what is happening, the communities are now saying that a percentage of the oil wells should go to us because we are the ones securing the oil wells. So, and again, we have very discretionary policies around how oil wells are being allocated to people. And so it's also a serious issue that we are having where communities can say, okay, because we are not entitled to any oil well, nobody drills any oil from our community anymore until the government considers us suitable or feasible to operate oil wells. So those are some of the issues as well that needs to be taken care of now from the beginning that we have not started exploring onshore. And then the national oil company should be operated as a business venture. I think someone alluded to that in the course of our discussion, and not a cash cow, because before now in Nigeria, the NNPC was more or less a cash cow where anybody can go borrow money and never pay the money back. Whereas we have other countries where their national oil company have even companies, they operate oil wells in other countries and return and benefit to the country. But it's not applicable to our own national oil company. Rather, it's where monies are being kept and borrowed at will. And then, okay, I'll talk about the oil wells, and then the resource ownership, I'll talk about that, and then the commissioning policy. This is where we have a problem because no oil asset for the past 5 decades or so in Nigeria have been decommissioned. And when I will show some pictures, we'll see that communities continue to suffer this impact because there are on-service oil facilities that we have. And then capacity building, blueprint for complete takeover of the industries. And the way we have the industry in Nigeria, we'll have experts from other countries to be operating until we'll phase out fossil fuels. Because there is no blueprint on how, at a point, we'll have the natives of the country completely take over the oil operation. In terms of exploration, in terms of production, the way the system is structured will continue to be an apprentice under people as long as we continue to operate our oil industry. So that is also something that Ghana needs to see how to address. And then I'm very sure that oil is not found everywhere in Ghana, like Nigeria. It's only in the Niger Delta region that we have the oil. And the ownership mentality comes from when the people from that region feel that the entire country feels on the resources that is coming from their region, and yet they are not benefiting from it. And so if you have a region that contributes about 11% to your gross domestic product, and for over 5 decades of oil production, over 600 billion USD has been contributed to the economy, they have all the strong justifications why they should benefit from what is happening in that industry. And then so we have over 200 polluted sites in Nigeria, okay, and with 2,000 rather, and there is no light at the end of the tunnel that in 5 years or in 10 years these sites will be polluted, will be cleaned or remediated, not to talk of restoration. And that's because of we have paid lip services to oil pollution and remediation, but we pay attention to the fiscal regimes. So you see that the fiscal regimes are always being re-engineered, reviewed, but nothing happens to pollution, remediation, and restoration. Until the government, the people agitated, protest everywhere, and then the government asked UNEP in 2009 to come and do a research on just a set of 4 local councils in the Niger Delta region, and the report validated a number of human rights abuses and environmental violations that have been going on in the place. And so we still have this kind of oil assets and pollution like this all over the places in the Niger Delta. And this is just the back of somebody's house. So if we imagine how much hydrocarbon that is being taken in on a daily basis from this kind of scenarios. And then we have people now that have they have developed themselves, and they are into artisanal refining. They have access to the crude, they cook the crude, and they sell at reduced prices. Okay, so they are beating government prices. Okay, and there are communities that government do not have, especially those ones that are across the ocean. Government do not have energy stations, and so these guys are able to take hold of that local economy and distribute the products sufficiently and are making money from it. This came from neglect. Okay, when there was serious neglect, people then said, okay, we can learn the skill of cooking the oil into petrol, into diesel, into kerosene, those 3 products. Okay, the bad thing is that they pollute the environment more than the conventional refineries, because other products that would have been produced are now thrown into the environment as waste. And so you cannot drive the white car in the Niger Delta region because soot envelops the cloud. If you park your car in the night, wake up in the morning, and just take a wipe on your car, your hand will be black carbon. Okay, the same thing goes for acid rain. The same thing goes for suspended particulate matter in the air. It's a terrible situation. So you would not want to get to this point where the youths in the local communities will form association and call themselves artisanal refiners, and then they tap the pipelines and then cook the oil.
So
they steal the oil, cook the oil, and then sell to the people. And now they are saying that if you want us to stop this, legalize what we are doing, and then convert us into build modular refineries, where we do not need to work in your conventional refineries, but build modular refineries for us and give us legitimate access to crude oil. We do not need to go and build pipelines anymore. So you can decide to say if 80% of the crude is going into the refinery, give us 20%. Okay, so that's where the argument is now. And this has grown into an industry. It's not a graphic matter. It has grown into an industry where even security agents give support to these guys because they also benefit from the system. So you will not want to get to this point. We have fishermen that can no longer fish in shallow waters. Even when they go further into the ocean, they can no longer have access to fish. And so it is a serious problem. You see bears die on daily basis like this. Hectares of mangrove destroyed by oil spills in this manner when we are talking about climate change and the need to sequester carbon from the atmosphere. You see the kind of devastation that is being done to our environment. And so you see acid rain, you see people still drinking from this type of wells. In a country where oil pollution, or in a region where oil pollution is almost close to the surface of the water table, people are still drinking from this type of shallow wells. And it's a serious problem for the local communities. You see skin of local community people being irritated in this manner, and then this is the fish landing site, but nobody could fish again in this community because almost all the coastline have been polluted by oil spills. Alright, so we have suits, we have livelihoods that have been destroyed without alternative, and that is why we also have some of those illegitimate businesses thriving. We have health impacts, we have socio-economic bastardization, we have increased crime rates and unending conflicts. And because there are no alternatives to the livelihoods that have been destroyed, agricultural yields are now very limited, and then the artisanal refining, oil tech, and bunkering is increasing. It's growing into a very strong and big industry. And the gas flaring, again, is something that Ghana will need to take affirmative action about from the beginning, because we continue to shift the goalposts for ending gas flaring in Nigeria. This year they will say 2020, they will say 2025, they will say 2030. We cannot stop, okay? Because nobody is interested in building the infrastructure where we can harmonize the gas and refine it and use it as a renewable energy. We don't have those kind of zeal. All right, now for the regulatory structure, what I would suggest is that from the beginning, you design a single regulator. Yes, sir. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, you design a single regulator because we have several regulators in Nigeria, and the overlapping roles is creating serious conflicts in managing oil spills or in managing polluted sites. So a single regulator has worked in a number of places that are developing and are also developed. Okay, so a single regulator is something that will be of benefit, and then a comprehensive environmental protection law. Instead of having pieces here that complete each other, if you have a comprehensive environmental protection law with different regulations drawn from that also provide guidelines, that would be of serious help. But when you have different ad hoc and piecemeal regulations that fight each other, it will be difficult for you, because as you are bringing this to validate a point, somebody is bringing the other one to say this, there is also a law like this. So it's good to have just one law that helps. And then the polluter pays principle, as much as you can, you institutionalize that. I do not have more time again, so okay. So the time is to act is now. So if you like if the country likes the new structure that we have now, is that the percentage of oil proceeds be set aside for addressing pollution. It is very, very important, because getting the polluter to pay takes time. Sometimes you go to court, and the court case can be as much as 5-10 years. By then, oil has destroyed the entire environment. And then also for community development as well, then allow communities to participate in the decision-making process. Equal opportunities is good for all. If you don't, you will cause conflict. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. No, very instructive. I'm sure I have to rush you at the end. But I'm sure you will share this without helping us to follow up. Now we come to the areas for tomorrow's group work.
Thank you, Chair. Before I do that, with the permission of the Chair, maybe we should take one or two feedback so that our colleague can respond. Maybe if there's a question for clarification, something like bothering you. It's not Boko Haram. Yes, the mic is there.
Quick question. You talk about there's now the petroleum cost and impacted on a global scale. So what has been happening all these
All this while for the past 18 years.
What has been happening?
Okay. Is there a similar quick clarification question so that you take them together? Any other? Okay. I think the fully. Please.
Okay. All right, so before now, there have been, what oil companies do is that they go to the committee and say, okay, this committee needs 6 classroom blocks, and they'll just build 6 classroom blocks somewhere, and they are done. That's their corporate responsibility. Another time they will come and they will feel that there is need for a town hall. Maybe people have been doing their town hall meetings under the rain and under the sun. They will build one town hall meeting and they are gone. And then the committee will complain, why do you do that yourself? Can you give the contract to committee people to do? And then when they started giving to committee people, somebody will take the money, do a foundation, and they run away. And that will be the end of it. You will not even see the fruition of the project. And so at some point, the committee started forming agitation groups where they don't allow the operators to operate in their community anymore. They shut down the production process, and then the government was suffering from that. So that has happened for all this while until government then said, okay, community, please come and tell us what you want. And they then said, we need a percentage of the money that comes from that oil that is leaving our land. And then they said, okay, how can we do that? And that was where the thought of a petroleum host and battery committees bill came into play. But again, people that host oil facilities but are not experienced fields are saying that if you say you want to give 10%, that's 10% of OPEX, that's operating expenditure. So if, for example, Shell, this is a committee and Shell is operating in this committee, 10% of the operating expenditure every year goes into that particular cost. So the question is, what defines where Shell is operating? Is it as a result of pipeline crossing my community, or because there's a flow station in my community, or because there's an oil well in my community? What defines that? So it is that definition that is holding back the bill at the moment. And again, what if you have oil infrastructure in my community, but for that year you did not expend anything in terms of operational costs in my community? Does it mean you are not going to pay 10% of that? So there are a number of questions that are coming up at the moment.
Sorry, just a follow-up. So it means that the government had
Use the mic.
Sorry. So government was not playing any role. It was left to operators.
Yeah, they
do whatever
they want to do in the community.
Our colleague, Farah, do you have a question? There's a question here, but do you have a question or comment? Yes, do you have a question or a comment?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. No, I'm listening in, but I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Yes. Yes.
Sorry, well, maybe I have missed out on issues related to local content in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. I mean, I didn't quite get that clear from you. I want to know whether or not it's been kind of carrying out principles of law.
Okay.
And also issues about downstream going into the chemical industry, for example. Going into the downstream chemical industry, for example, was it envisaged from the beginning, or was it taken into account in the development process where you factor downstream activities into your oil and gas industry? And then lastly, you run a federal government system in Nigeria. So I was wondering how come that the producing areas have been neglected to the extent that you wish in your presentation.
Okay. All right. Okay. So for local content, we have a local content act, but the oil company will say there is a local content act, but I cannot employ somewhere that does not have the necessary capacity. Okay, so for me to employ you as part of me complying with the local content law, you need to have the capacity, because I have a line of requirements that I have set out for someone I want to employ to work for me. So what you see is that the local content is only for laborers, for people that provide support, but when it gets to those high skill areas, the local support will not cover. That does not mean that we do not have 1 or 2 persons that are being employed. But there is a particular percentage that the local content said that the oil operators should employ. But most times, they do not have the necessary people that will fill those vacancies with the necessary skills. So again, where that goes is that the capacity development gap is not being seen by government to say, okay, if that is a problem, can we sponsor 10 persons in petroleum engineering from this community to study this at this part of the world? So all of that kind of expectation is not being met. And then again, something that is missing in local content is, like I mentioned, that people will continue to be apprentices under people that are brought from another country to come and be in charge of our oil exploration. So we will never get to a point as a result of this local content law where there will be a complete handover for indigenous or the indigenous companies or individuals that have those kind of capacity to take over the management of our oil sector. So the way it is, there is no transfer. There is no point where even when you have the skills and the prerequisite, there will be no handover of the oil sector to Nigerians to manage. It will be continually being managed by people that are being brought from outside the country. And then in terms of downstream considerations, there are places in Nigeria that it's tough, it's difficult for us to have very visible government presence. And the reason is because there are sometimes you see the ocean that you need to cross, and a typical Nigerian will say, I know something must kill a man, but let me not kill myself with this. And so there are communities that they don't have filling stations. And getting access to as simple as kerosene is very difficult. And so you see that in some places, the communities give social license to these guys that are involved in artisanal refining. So when you get to those kind of places and you ask, why do you encourage people to be involved in artisanal refining? And the response will be, it provides the food in my house. Why do you want me to discourage you? And so they have life-threatening justification why they should even encourage their children or the youth in their community to be part of the energy chain at that level where they are able to get access to the crude. In short, the reports we have now is that the females are the ones that transport the oil from where it is being broken from the pipe to where it is being cooked. So they give them that role. They don't cook, they are not part of the boiling or cooking process, but they are the ones that get it from the source, from where it is being tapped from the pipeline to where it will be boiled to that to the temperature for kerosene or diesel or petrol. So that's the kind of situation that we find ourselves. Now, in the oil producing areas, we've had a number of agencies. We have Oil Producing Development Area Commission, ONPADEC, we've had the Niger Delta Development Commission, we've had. But when you see the kind of mandates they are giving, they do very short-term contracts or projects. You can hardly see them doing a sustainable long-term project. So they do things like 10-kilometer roads, they do things like, you cannot see the commission do a project that will require 4 or 5 bridges, probably to connect an isolated community to mainland. You can't see the commission do those kind of projects. They are limited by virtue of even the act that brought them into existence. And so, I don't know if it's a deliberate process, but these are some of the things that are leading to agitations and protests every day on the streets of communities in the Niger Delta.
Can I ask a simple question?
Okay.
How many people are employed in the oil sector in Nigeria?
I don't have the numbers, but across Nigeria there are people that have been.
So people are employed anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, and then we should be wrapping up.
Just a few questions.
Yes.
What is the relationship between the national, because you practice the federal system, right?
Yeah.
Between the national and then the state governments, as Richard said, because you have the state governments, is it possible that the state governments are even, encouraging tacitly, the artisanal type? We do have something similar in our mining sector in Ghana, where they started the artisanal mining. In fact, as one of the comments, but I didn't bring that up, the practitioners will also be very important. So as part of the risk, these are some of the areas. Are you going to have the large scale type, the medium scale, the small scale? And indeed, what you see in the mining sector here is that most of the people who were employed formally in the formal sector to do exploration, etc., they got some of the skills and then they translated them into the community. So when they were laid off, they stay in the community, so they learn practice, and that has perpetuated this. And so we also have to, as part of the risk, look at that type of management, because if you should find some development, naturally, just like you are seeing in Nigeria, they may trickle down. And as part of the management, we actually have to be on our guard. But I want to, as I said, look at the relationship between the state and the national government, to what extent they may also be part of these kind of problems that or challenges that we've enumerated.
Okay. All right, we have a system that people are just complacent. Because of our political structure, if the state government is of a particular political party that is different from the political party of the federal government, then that political difference is taken up in virtually every project or every aspect. It doesn't matter whether the people that in quotes are elected you are suffering from it. Okay, so that's what happens in Nigeria. And a typical example is the cleanup of Ogoniland that the government has commissioned 2 years ago. The state government on several occasions have come to the press to say that the state government is not interested. It's not interested in cleaning up the environment that was polluted by the operator, even when the federal government has released funds that that place should be remediated and restored back to how it was supposed to be. The state government said they are not going to provide any support for it, not minding that there are human beings that stay in those communities. So, and it is mainly because of the political differences that they have. So the relationship in Nigeria between the different tiers of government is such that if the state government is not happy with what is happening in a particular local government, they can decide not to release the funds that are supposed to be used by local government for something different, not even for that particular activity. The state government can decide to punish a particular local government, maybe for taking the instruction of the federal government, okay, on something entirely different. So that's the kind of situation we suffer.
Okay, I think. Okay, all right. So that will be the last, and then we can.
I just maybe we can get time. I mean, I can get time with him over a number of issues that we because of lack of time. But I've had a look at your. I don't know whether you finalize your petroleum, law now or bill. It was very comprehensive. It's more an integrated one than we have here. And anyway, it covers from upstream to downstream. And then in fact, it's taking up environmental issues, the EP and all those are under that, which I find very, very comprehensive. Is that what you mean by a single regulator?
No.
Okay.
In Nigeria at the moment, we have the Department of Petroleum Resources under the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. We have a department called the Department of Petroleum Resources. That department has two functions. The first one is to maximize revenue from oil and also to regulate the environment. And then we have the Federal Ministry of Environment. And like you mentioned, they are the custodians, they are the regulators. And then we have an agency under the Federal Ministry of Environment called the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSTRA, that has the responsibility to detect and respond to oil spills. So we have a situation where when there is a spill, the oil company is even confused. Should I tell DPR, that's Department of Petroleum Resources? Should I tell NOSTRA? Well, I first report myself to the Ministry of Environment. So that conflict does not end there, but DPR will say, I was the one that gave you license to operate. Why won't you tell me when there is oil pollution? You want me to seize your license? And then NOSTRA will say, I'm the one that the government gave the mandate to detect oil spill and clean it up. And so if there is oil spill and you haven't told me, it means that your practices or your activities are inimical to the Nigerian environment, and so we can stop you from operating in Nigeria. And so you see, those kind of conflicts have been on for too long a period. And then when we make this kind of prepositions in the parliament that they should put all of them together as one agency. If you think you are in, they are all government ministries. So if you think you are in Department of Petroleum Resources, you have skills in environmental management, fine. We will take you from there and put you in Onshore, because those are the people that we know by law they should undertake environmental protection. But they will say no. You see, when the director of Onshore and the Minister of Petroleum Resources will say no, we cannot let that mandate or responsibility go. And so you start to imagine if there are strongholds on those mandates as a result of national interest or personal interest. Okay, we had a law that we pushed up to, civil societies pushed up to the point of action by the president for us to push away the Department of Petroleum Resources and have just Onshore. But Hassan was there, and the reason given to the greatest surprise of everyone was that it would whittle down the power of the president. So you see that we have those kind of very strong conflicts that until they are dealt with, we are not going to have sustainable environmental management in Nigeria. And so a single regulator does a whole lot of good. If you are issuing permit and license, good and fine, that should be their responsibility. You should have nothing or no business to do with environmental regulation. The reason is because there is always conflict of interest. If you are the one doing those same duties, when you get to Shell, for example, there is oil spill in one coastal area. You don't even have the facility to assess those viewpoints. It is the shopper provided by Shell that you are going to sit in. It is Shell that is also going to provide either bargain or food that you are going to eat there. And so it's difficult for you to look at their plate, enter their plate, and then tell them you were at fault. No, it doesn't happen. And it has never happened. They always look for a way to justify what the oil companies have done. And if we have a responsible government, they should ordinarily know that that is not proactive and it is not helping the system. But the government is the one that is saying that we are not going to separate those two responsibilities.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll continue the conversation at dinner, somewhere at the bar, whatever. We are coming to the end of day one, and I just want to kind of signal what we should expect tomorrow. Before that, I want to say that from this little discussion, we have come to notice that there are many more risks and gaps pertaining to the oil and gas sector. There are many more, and there are different ways in which they can be clustered. If you take any individual here and leave the person alone, you might cluster them differently. So there are different options in terms of clustering the risk and the gaps in the oil sector. But the organizers of this particular meeting also have a choice to make. Out of the range of choices that are available, gaps that are available, they have settled on 4, which is a product of the work of the consultants. So we will go into groups tomorrow to take on board these 4. These are still the issues. We might go back and think whether the groups will 4 or 2 or 3. But these are the 4 issues that we are thinking we should be working around. And so, part of the things that we'll be looking at under each of these three areas, because they are broad enough. The first thing is, of course, not in any order, but to break each of the thematic areas further down in terms of the gaps or the risk under each of them. For example, if we talk about land, one thing that immediately comes for is compensation. If you take over land, I think Richard will disagree, it's not compulsory acquisition or whatever, but let's assume it's compulsory acquisition. The moment that you, the state appears on the face of oil, then the user rights kind of are compromised. So in that case, the person's access to livelihood is also interfered. And through that, the person is entitled to some kind of compensation. Now, the status quo for compensation payment exists. Do we want to reflect further and see that in order, and in fact one thing that comes often is the fact that either the compensation is not adequate, as to whether that's true or not, but is a common theme which comes up. That is not adequate, or the delay in payment of the compensation. But under the law, it's supposed to be fair and prompt. But these have remained worse for too long. I'm not going to influence that in the oil and gas sector. So for each of these, we will interrogate further what are the further gaps, what are the further risks in each of them. When we pose those questions, we will go further. As we all know, there are three main things that actually regulate any economic activity in any society: policy, law, and institutions. We will go further and look at the strengths and weaknesses, because we also don't want to just throw out the weaknesses there. There are some good lessons that we can reflect upon to reinforce what happens into the future. We can reflect further and see whether the existing policies, laws, and institutions with respect to that particular thematic area, what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses? And based on your own finding as a group, you will propose some recommendation. And because that is what we will hold on and go to the government or ministry and say, this is the product of this meeting that we want you to act upon. Now, this is the thinking we are having. But the group is also at liberty, based on today's discussions, the new issues that have arisen, what you yourself might have discovered after you have reflected, all of the conversation that goes on. If the group comes to the conclusion that, particularly for today, institutional weaknesses is the most critical risk, you are free to add it on to this form and then go through the same process. That is the expectation for tomorrow. I also recall that there's a strong commentary that environment or fiscal environment for that matter is critical gap that has not come up. I think in the framing, the assumption is made that when we're talking about community health, safety and security, is the fact that there will be some adverse impact on the environmental media. So that probably explains why the fiscal environment is not singled out as an issue. So this is the response I'll give to that. So having said that, we still would like to have a lot more reflection tomorrow to inform our group discussions. And so when we come tomorrow, we will have one of our friends from Kenya, the person of Stella Opaka, who will share experience, the Kenya experience with us. And then we will expect that Professor Thomas will come back and also indicate to us that based on the conversation that took place yesterday, and then the early morning presentation, in fact, he had the capacity to do that. This is the thinking in terms of a revision of the report that he has offered to us. This is the thinking of it. And perhaps that we will offer further responses to that. So that will then lead us into the group work. But we are not naming the groups now. We would like to organize it to reflect a bit, so that by tomorrow morning you would have known where you belong. On that note, I would like to revert to the chair and to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed. So I'm grateful for taking us through these conversations. It has been, for me, a very full afternoon of work. Let me repeat that the purpose of this session today was to prepare the grounds for more specific detailed negotiations. The important point for me at this point is to organize the categories of high risks listed are not absolute, as I think was made clear. The number of cross-cutting issues that come up are quite significant. And so we shall dig through a bit more before we can conclude how to factor in that level of complication. But I would like to simply thank all of you for your attention to the contribution. And I have no doubt you will not sleep too early. You will think through before tomorrow. You can come back prepared to take us even faster and more deeply forward. I must say that hearing the Nigerian story and knowing what we know, this exercise becomes even more important. If it is possible for us to think through and to help policymakers begin the process of putting in place preventive measures, it ought to be of enormous value, no matter what we say. Anything we propose will be adopted will be an improvement on doing nothing. So I would encourage you very much to take on board the broad issues raised, refine them in your heads, so tomorrow morning you can very quickly clarify the group work, get down to the group work, see how it goes. Thank you very much. Thank you. What is the part of
The bar.
For somebody who's going to drink orange.
I think it's open. I have no idea to be honest, but I'm sure they're open. It's so late. Tomorrow we start. Breakfast will be served from 7, but we start here at 9. Yes. That's about it. Thank you all so much.